What's a good word, everyone? It's your boy DKB here. I just want to say thanks for all the support. The channel's been steadily growing, and the number you see below, you can drop a text, shoot a voicemail, any ideas, topics, collabs, etc. you guys want to see. I'll include them in future videos and live streams, and I'll catch you again. Be easy. What's a good word, Jets fans? It's your boy DKB here. With this new regime, Aaron Glenn has been the loudly applauded counterpart. His ability to handle the New York media, clearly setting expectations and dictating the flow and topics that are going to be, approached during his press conferences. Not only that, but his ability to speak to just the simplistic black and white nature of some of these conversation pieces. Not everything needs to be Morse code when it comes to trying to be strategic in football. And that's an aspect of some of these guys that I really, really appreciate. And then ultimately his ability to set expectations when it comes to what he wants the team to look, feel, and play like, not only just in practice, but in game days as well. I couldn't ask for much more, right? And it's going to be a gritty team that's going to put you through hell for 60 minutes, and we plan on winning every single time. Winning is an expectation and a mentality now, and not just something we're looking to achieve, right? And I think that'll be a drastic change from what a lot of these players have felt before. With that said, that would mean that Darren Mougey is the lesser known, the lesser applauded counterpart in this relationship. And I think that was going to be what was up in the air when we looked at what a new pairing was going to look like. Is the head coach kind of going to be the face of the franchise, or is the GM going to be the end-all be-all as we look to turn the page in 2025? And I think you're clearly starting to see a distinction about who wants to do what. And in Darren Mougey's case, I really like him for the most part. Me being introverted as well, I think you can tell anything for him outside of player evaluation is a little bit more of a touchy, uncomfortable subject for whatever degree that happens to be to him. But you can tell his heart and soul is in player evaluation, in scouting. You can see him perk up, the chest pump out, the eyes brighten up whenever he gets questions asked about those. And for what it's worth, post-combine, I've seen a lot of reports mentioning, highlighting Darren Mougey's ability, what he has working for himself between the ears when it comes to his acumen of evaluating players, and we can't sell that selling point enough. But Tony Pauline from Sportskeeda spoke about this as well, highlighting what impressed agents, players, etc. But he also mentioned 3 priorities for the New York Jets this offseason: a veteran quarterback, the wide receiver room, and re-signing Brandin Echols. And I want to start with the latter here. Brandin Echols, he's been a very undervalued member of the secondary really since he got drafted. He has worked himself up from being a core special teamer into being a pivotal spot starter whenever necessary. And one of the best things about Brandin Echols here is the fact that he's been able to kind of work himself into this playmaker label based on very limited snaps. Whenever he gets the ample opportunity to see the field, it feels like you're guaranteed to see him make a big play, an interception, recovering a fumble that he's returning, whatever the case happens to be. And, you take a look at him being able to dominate the Dolphins so far. Every time he's been asked to step up and start or take a larger role in those games due to injury. So I really, really like him. And I know this is going to be a common trend for any cornerback that has generally above average to elite speed. But one of the most impressive things about Brandin Echols, even going back to his initial rookie scouting report, was his ability to recover. When he gets beat, he can still get back in phase of the play in a blink of an eye, get back into the hip pocket of the wide receiver and put himself in the best position to, if not make a play on the ball, at least make sure that he's not getting a big play against him. And if he can really take a jump mentally in terms of recognizing wide receiver patterns and different things like that, you could be talking about an excellent, uptick player here. I'm particularly high on seeing a competition between Brandin Echols, Quantez Stickers. I even love what we got to see out of JBC last year, and I think this is a coaching staff that should get the most out of its secondary, as that being the new position that develops, finds, and stashes, talent consistently much like we saw with the linebackers under Robert Saleh and Jeff Ulbrich. So really looking forward to it. I also think the contract from a player skill and dollar standpoint will match up perfectly. I can't imagine him, breaking the bank or really getting $6, $7, $8 million, but a nice 2-3 year deal. Couple million per year, I think will get the job done. And I don't know if the selling point really needs to be that he would become a key piece of a competition for that cornerback 2 role, or if it's just here's some money for what you've done in the role that you've excelled at. Will give you the opportunity, but ideally you may end up still fitting into the same bucket. Who knows? But I think these are the kind of moves that will help elevate the floor for the team, right? And this would also be a good indicator of this regime looking to reward the players that they feel like are deserving of such. So looking at the quarterback position, we're going to be linked to all of the names, but I think ideally the big 3 that have been talked about so far in recent weeks. Justin Fields as the hot name and probably the primary target, just based on the fact that we've got the rumors Aaron Glenn prefers the dual threat quarterback. You take a look at the backstory with the Detroit Lions. He watched a former first-round bust, if you will, find a way to go from bridge quarterback to really becoming kind of that franchise-type player for the team. And Justin Fields can definitely still follow that same pathway if things happen to click for him. Definitely a ton of work still to get done with him, but he hasn't been in the best situations. I would put a lot more stock into what you've seen out of the Steelers just because of how well run Mike Tomlin has that organization and the expectancy and the level that they compete at. So hopefully you get that and you continue to be able to build on it. But the 2 other names that we've really seen, Carson Wentz, Marcus Mariota. I think Marcus Mariota probably isn't as likely, even though he fits probably more of the criteria that we're looking for, just because he's been on a little bit more of a bumpy road. You have to give the accolades for what they've done in their career so far to Carson Wentz over Marcus Mariota, and I would probably still argue that Carson Wentz would probably be able to bounce back a little bit better if he was called up the spot, but again, you're not going to have that same level of dual threat ability. I do prefer the experience that Carson Wentz has over a guy like Marcus Mariota, but maybe the reset that Mariota has had with the Commanders really helps him out if you don't put a ton of stock into some of the spot starts and playing time that he put up with the Falcons, and that not necessarily being overly impressive, even though you can make the same argument for Carson Wentz. So we'll see where we land on there. Maybe there'll be a surprise contender in here. And then the wide receiver room, 2 of the names, and there's really the only 2 that I've really heard this offseason, Tim Patrick, and then the new one being Josh Palmer from the Chargers and the Lions, right? Tim Patrick, obvious connection there, Aaron Glenn, the Lions, get a guy that's familiar with what you're looking to do. Big catch radius, was ridiculously efficient last year, being able to put up solid numbers across the board on his limited targets. And I want to say he had 44, definitely sub 50. But 3 touchdowns, couple of 100 yards. He did really, really well for himself there as that 4th-5th option. And even in certain games, he was able to go there and be the main point that they were able to, walk away with a couple victories. So a guy that knows how to go above and beyond his role when absolutely necessary. More of that aging veteran presence, again, that's going to bring you what you're looking for in terms of some of those depth pieces. He'd probably be a direct replacement for Allen Lazard in my mind. Josh Palmer, though, a little bit more intriguing. 25, he's young. He's coming off a pretty solid year where he's averaged over 16 yards per reception. And playing with Justin Herbert, you like to see that he did a little bit more for himself, but he's a big body threat. He brings the speed, again, as a deep threat option for himself there. He could be ideally what you were looking to get, I would imagine, out of an Allen Lazard, or more realistically, a Mike Williams when he had him. This is the upside pick, right? This is the guy that has a floor you're comfortable with as a player that hasn't necessarily broken out, but he has a solid enough pedigree. He has a solid enough track record of being able to perform, and he could be able to rise above some of those expectations. And these will both be reasonable contracts. One of the better pieces as well is both of these guys would fit that duality that you want with Garrett Wilson as kind of that possession, jump ball, boundary, 50-50 guy, and you're not going to break the bank. These players would all be about these acquisitions, really. If I'm looking at free agency, I'm taking it from the standpoint of I want to raise the floor. If I want to take wild swings in the draft and stuff, then I want to make sure I've counterbalanced that with knowing exactly what I'm getting as much as possible in free agency with some of these depth pieces. So let me know what you guys think. Tim Patrick, Josh Palmer, Justin Fields, Marcus Mariota, Carson Wentz, and of course Brandin Echols here. Where do you lie on all of these conversations? And I'll catch you guys again. Peace.